Montrose Landing Unified School District special board meeting on June 5th, 1923. Public communication, agenda, and non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on agenda and non-agenda items may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action, on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the board. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Do I have anyone that would like to speak to the board? No? Thank you. Approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Information discussion items. Student representative, we'd like to introduce you. It is the first time, I think, since the board had student representatives, to Grace Studer. Studer? See, I have to do the ooh.
Yeah.
I always mess up a name first. Welcome aboard, Grace. We're looking forward to next year and hopefully have a really great summer. Okay. Okay. Public hearing naming of the Oristimba Gymnasium. Yes, may I have?
No, open.
Open up at 5:16. Do any of the board members have anything to say about the naming? I know we had a committee.
If I may just share kind of a little bit of the process. So as you recall, there was a presentation that was made a number of months ago at a board meeting, and Superintendent Posey then set up a committee. And in his absence, then I was able to pull together a committee, and we met on May 25th, Thursday on May 25th. Some of the members of that committee are here. Jocelyn Sattel and her father Jamie, and Steve Cardoso was part of that committee, and that's the only ones that are present right now. But also part of the committee were Scott Ball, Councilman Ball, and also Justin Pruitt is the principal of Oristimba, Scott Felber, and Jessica Gonzalez was also a part of that member and voted by phone. So it was basically they looked through the letters, they talked about the nomination, and it was overwhelming basically of a vote for naming the gymnasium after Carrie McWilliams. And since this is a public hearing, I just want to say we probably may have some people who want to speak on that note, such as maybe Susan Madison. Also, I just want to also indicate that Kathy McWilliams is here with their daughter, Casey.
Welcome.
There's Casey right now.
Thank you. And I'm glad Casey and Kathy are with us. So Susan Mattis, I'm not going to bore you with details. I know that you have the packet of letters and my documentation from our last meeting. I thank you for nominating a committee and for the diligence that they did in discussing this. As I said before, and I won't bore you with a lot of details, but I do believe that this board would be hard-pressed to ever find another representative who worked within the school and who also was a coach and mentor to so many students, particularly for the number of years that Carrie did. I believe that the number of students that he touched in his 30 years of coaching would be in the thousands, and many of them have expressed to me their desire to make this happen, and they just feel that he was so much more than just maybe a teacher or just maybe a coach. I know to my daughter, he was, or both my daughters actually, he was so much more than that. And he spent many, many hours at that gymnasium, as I'm sure Kathy and his daughter can attest to. There were probably many early mornings that he wasn't around to get the kids off to school and help Kathy do things, and many evenings when he was coaching the kids or helping them some way, as well as weekends. And so that, in addition to the number of years that he was a teacher, administrator, and as well as a member of this board, I think it is extremely well-deserved and very much appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Matters. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? So as,
I just wanted to express our gratitude and appreciation from my family for this consideration. Some of my earliest memories are retrieving the lost and found items from under the bleachers in that gym when I was like this high. And so to possibly have his name on that gym is really amazing. So thank you so much.
thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Okay. Close the public hearing, which is 5:21. And the two action items that we have will have to be done in closed session after this.
No, these are action items for the public meeting, and so we're recommending that you approve the overnight field trip for the FFA leadership.
And,
That would be the first one for you to do.
okay, may I have, by roll call vote? Oh, first I need a motion, sorry.
I would make that motion. I'll second.
Yes.
It was Frank.
Frank, okay. Mr. Rivas?
Aye. Yes.
Mr. Cabral?
Aye.
Mr.
Bizarre.
Bizarre? Sorry, my brain's on fried. Mr. Hurst, Mrs. Hurst, and Mrs. Conforti votes aye, pass 5-0.
Do you want an advisory vote from the student rep?
Oh, yes. Do you know of the vote for the Oristimba High School gym?
Well, that would be the
No.
second. The
That
first
would be
motion
the-
we're
okay.
talking about is just the.
Okay.
She'd like to vote on.
Would you like to vote on the field trip for the FFA? Yes, okay.
Okay. So Miss
Good practice.
Miss Studer says yes.
We haven't done that in a long time. Okay, approve the naming of the Oristimba High School gym. May I have a motion?
My motion
Times two.
May I have a second?
It was,
So the motion is to name the gymnasium.
After, right.
okay.
And Mr. Cabral? Mr. Rivas?
Yes. Mr. Bizarre?
Mr. Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye, and Ms. Stuttler.
Studer.
Okay. Hi. Oh, this is not the day I need this. Okay, and so now the Oristimba Gym will be going through all the like plaques or whatever.
Well, so we'll be working on plaques and then a dedication, and I believe that part of what was discussed was possibly at the first varsity volleyball game, is that correct? So we'll work with the family on that as well in terms of when that would be and get the word out. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people showing up in the community and stuff in celebration of that. It was really a well,
I think, is there still the trophy case so that we can
yes.
add things to it?
And put some things in it. Yeah.
There is a trophy case in the lobby.
If they can put things in, right.
It's gonna be on the gym, right, and also the floor, I'm assuming, yes?
Studer.
Yes?
Yeah.
On the gym and the floor,
And,
and on the floor?
No.
Like the gym on the,
floor gets,
yeah, so,
Right.
no, yeah,
but they're always painting it.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked cool to have his name on the floor too, so.
You want to walk them.
Huh?
Can we hear from Mr. Pruitt?
Yeah.
I think what we were thinking is naming the gym, but somewhere on the court, putting Matt Court.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the logistics will be worked out.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a surprise when we open it.
Yeah, really.
Let's see, okay, maybe volleyball, the first volleyball game or something.
Well,
That's
that's
what,
what they were saying,
Yeah.
first volleyball game.
Okay.
so I just want to say thank you, yeah, thank you to the office.
This is the first time since I've been on the board, we've named something for
No,
someone.
no, no, we did.
Oh, that's right,
the
we did
field
McConnell.
and jumped it
That's
up,
right,
the farm.
that's right, no, it's been a couple.
Well, we did the baseball field out at Benita.
Baseball
And the
field,
farm and-
and the farm,
Several.
and McConnell Center,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm an old lady.
yeah. So I appreciate all you coming out here for this. You're certainly welcome to stay for the LCAP and the
Yes.
budget.
You can stay for all of those, yes. Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Thank you and have a great
Okay,
summer.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I didn't notice Mrs. Felber there.
Yeah.
Okay, information items, local control and accountability plan. Mrs. Mendoza? Oh, Mrs. Betancourt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
Open
it
it.
starts at 5:26.
Good evening. I'm going to give you the highlights of the LCAP so that you don't have to read the whole plan in your board backup, unless you already have, but.
It was.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
The LCAP, we always start out with like reflecting on our successes and areas that need improvement. I'm not going to read every slide for you so you can kind of see some of the areas, but I do want to point out the focus on developing math pathways at OHS. That's been a job that Mrs. Robles has been spearheading along with Mr. Pruitt and his counseling team, and that is really going to really support students in finding a successful math pathway. I think there's a lot of work still to be done, but they made a really good first start this year. So, and the math team has been great working on that with SCOE, our county office, and Mrs. Robles. So that's a highlight there. A lot of these things are already in the LCAP. We'll just continue. We did a great job decreasing our suspension rates coming back last year, and we need to continue some work on that, but that'll be something we're focused on too. Areas that we've identified as needing improvement or need something, where we need to look. Again, we're still focused on math and writing. We're wanting to definitely look at our chronic absenteeism at all sites. It went from 4% to 34% in a couple of years, pre-COVID and post-COVID. So that's a huge area across the state of California that all districts are working on. And again, we still want to continue working on those pathways for math and for CTE.
Mrs. Betancourt, do you think that the reason for the absenteeism is that students got so used to being home and doing things at their, and
Absolutely,
they have to
COVID.
get back into the routines, like the adults, they're not used to going to work
Exactly.
to
And
drive there.
It's just getting families back into the routine of school. And last year, we still had quarantining going on. So kids so I think it's going to self-correct, but we do still have to get our families back into the routine of getting kids to school on a regular basis.
Okay,
So our first goal, I think I'm right, our action, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Say sorry, I'm going backwards. So our first goal is to prepare all students for college and career. And so these are the actions that you'll find under those goals. I put in the actions, Mrs. Mendoza puts in the money that goes with, that pairs with that action. So you'll see some of this, in the LCAP, you'll actually see the dollar amounts by the actions. And then I think you'll see some of it in her budget that she's gonna go over. Again, we really are looking at, for college and career, we're looking at providing students with multiple ways to leave our district in the 12th grade prepared to either go the college direction or go the career, or a little bit of both. So we want to make sure that those CTE pathways are available to all students, but also so that A through G is available to all students. The goal was to increase family, community, parent engagement. And the actions under there, revolve around parent involvement, social emotional support. That's where a lot of our funding for our mental health clinicians and our counselors, you'll see that money there. Giving parents a way to provide input and communicate, whether that's second cup of coffees, parent nights at the sites, a lot of different ways, surveys, however we can get input and communication. Health services also includes our mental health clinicians and our LVNs and nurse. And then we added an action this year. Anytime we change something in the LCAP, we kind of have to call it out to the county office. And we added an action revolving around chronic absenteeism. And I think the funding for the child attendance and welfare coordinator comes in under that action.
Mrs. Bettencourt, I'm going to interrupt you again.
Sure.
I was just reading some legislative actions, not only here, but across many states. And Governor Newsom has also said something about now making our schools safer because of what has been happening in schools. Do we have something, does that fit into the LCAP or is that separate?
Well, there's the safety plans that come in the fall, so that's usually covered, all of those drills and plans for what we would do in any type of scenario as, would be coming out of, those are in the safety plans.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So these are the highlights. Basically, we're looking at additional staff to support newcomers, electives for a second art teacher. We really want to focus this year on instructional support for our administrators, our professional development for our administrators, and support and professional development for new teachers. We found that was an area that we feel like we need to beef up for our new staff, and that leads to teacher retention and professional development for our classified staff also. Again, it leads to retention and supports students. So a lot of the after-school activities, you'll see that expanded after school. There is so much being offered for kids after school now. I believe we'll have a Girl Scout troop at every site next year. I believe that's what Mrs. Cassidy said. And Navigators troop, which is basically the Boy Scout version, but we're calling them Navigators. Continued the dance, the lots of art classes and clubs. So that will be even more expanded next year. And math pathways, again, is another highlight. Intervention teacher.
Ms. Bettencourt, on that, those math pathways, that's what we were talking about, that they needed something lower to get them.
So I think Mr. Pruitt brought to you maybe a few months ago,
Yeah.
the Math 1A, B, and the
Yes.
Math CD. Well, we've basically taken that start and then branched off to what would happen if a kid failed that class or passed,
Okay.
needed extra support. So that's what Mrs. Robles is working on with the team at the high school.
Okay.
And we did hire already another intervention teacher for Von Renner, which we're very excited about. That will be able to provide intervention for our dual language kids and EO kids. And another LVN, I think, has already been hired. So we've kind of got to work on some of these actions already. Any questions? That's kind of the LCAP in a nutshell.
I like the question mark.
Oh, your turn. Don't go backwards.
5:33, close public hearing. That was quick. Okay, now, public hearing at 5:34 for the budget.
Okay.
Mrs. Mendoza.
Okay, I'm waiting for Edward to pull that up. Be just a moment.
That's not the budget slide.
That's how I feel it's the budget.
Yeah, that's the question mark, yes.
Yeah, this year, that's really what it seems like.
No, now we're told that we're not going to have as much money again.
Yeah. That's correct. Is it working? Okay.
Oh, yay.
So, the May revise came out in May. It was kind of late. It comes out about the 15th. And then you listen to all of the hash by CSBA and school services and everybody else. Basically, what it comes down to, projected revenues for the state are down by about $11 billion next year. But they don't really know, because they don't have the tax revenue from this year yet. So that's dependent on the volatility of the stock market, which affects the top 1% of earners, because the state economy is so dependent upon on that top 1%. So there's, in a way to balance the budget for next year, there's cuts to one-time block grants that were assigned this year. Basically, the money that we've gotten is the money that we're gonna get, so we haven't budgeted for any more. One of the big ones that affected for us, we'd already gotten about 90% of it, so I think we'll be okay. I don't think they're gonna take it back. So the other programs, seems like he wants to keep going the way he's going. But the risk to our outlook beyond next year is the end of one-time federal funds, which everything ends by next September. Declining enrollment, which we could be facing. It's, the state across the board is declining. And then there could be deferrals, there could be other things that he needs to do to balance the ongoing budget. So the budget, just as a refresher, is made up of unrestricted and restricted funding. Unrestricted being the LCFF, which is made up of property taxes, state aid, and the economic education protection account. And then we have unrestricted lottery, the mandate block grant. We used to take mandated cost reimbursements differently, but now it's more beneficial for us to take it in the block grant. And then restricted categorical programs, which are accounted for a little bit differently. So breaking down the LCFF, some of you, this is new for you. There's certain factors that go into it. It's based on enrollment, the average daily attendance, which is why attendance and welfare comes in really important. Property taxes, and then whatever the cost of living projection is. And it's made up of different levels, which I'll show you in a moment. So next year, we're looking at having an LCFF amount of $43 million. It's broken up of $26 million from the state, almost $7 million in local property taxes, and $9.6 million in the Prop 30 education protection account. So this is a chart from the actual calculator. So it shows how the money is allocated. This is all in your backup too, and how much each component is, and how it makes up the total. So lottery, we're looking at $170 per ADA, not per enrollment, but per ADA. For the unrestricted, that goes to the site budgets, and then the restricted dollars is $67 per ADA, and that's used for curriculum. We've been banking that this year and the last couple of years, trying not to use it while we have the one-time money that we can use. So we're trying to bank that because we will have another adoption coming up in the next year or two. So restricted funding, again, is we have the ongoing money of the categoricals, the federal categoricals, Title I through Title IV, and then federal and state special education, migrant funding, and the lottery. And then the one-time money is starting to sunset. Some of it we will have, the ESSER money is ending next September, but some of the other ones will go out a little bit further than that. So our community priorities from our community meetings really came down to additional bilingual support, mostly at the secondary. We have bilingual aides instructional aides at the elementary level, but we need to enhance that for the secondary. They've asked for instructional coaches, which are teachers to really be pulled out of the classroom and work with other teachers. Additional campus supervision, and that comes back to the safety question that you had earlier, and then the math intervention. So for goal 2, we are really gonna be putting a lot of focus on student attendance incentives. That came straight from the parents and from the site leaders wanting to get back to that. We got away from focusing on attendance at the start of the pandemic, and now we have to get back to it. They've asked for additional counselors, professional development, and then structured games and activities during recess time. That was something that the elementary schools and the secondary had asked for. And it's not just using the existing yard duty or campus supervisors that you have. You can't pull them off what they're doing. We need to enhance that a little bit. So that's been included as well. So the sites submit in January, they submit requests for funding for their budgets for the following year. So we had about $1.8 million requested. So what we really need to look at, are we getting bang for our buck? Are we getting really good results out of the money that we're spending? And how will the decisions that we make impact our stakeholders and our students, especially long-term? Because we may have to make some very tough choices. Yes?
When we purchase books, or if we do online, which is, it seems like if we were buying courses online, if we're paying for them, that would be less expensive than the books, because the books have to be turned in, when they revise them. Is there a cost effectiveness either way, or you really don't have a choice?
I'll let Mrs. Betancourt address that.
For the secondary, I believe all their curriculum is online. We usually purchase a set of books to keep in the classroom just in case it's needed for, I don't know, a student needs to take it on independent study or something like that. For the elementary, we're still pretty much hard copy. Everything is online, but we always purchase hard copy for the elementary, so they always have an actual book and the digital version of that book. And I think I would say the older the student, the more they'll use the online and the book in combination.
So what the cost, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the cost.
The cost goes to basically a digital license, which lasts for a certain amount of time. Some things need to have consumables reordered every year, or refreshed, but usually a curriculum adoption lasts what, 8 years?
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is on this one slide back, the request made by the sites. The $25,000 for the safety, what would that include?
That, I believe, was additional staff for like the
It was
lunch games and things like
supervision
that.
and stuff, okay, all right, thank you.
So we always have to talk about CalSTRS and CalPERS and our impact. STRS has leveled off and now looks to be 19% going into the future. CalPERS is still going up every year. It will go up to 28% in the 25-26. So every $1 million of payroll has an impact of over $200,000 just, and we get nothing for that. The district, I mean, the employees do, obviously, the employees do. But as far as, it's a cost to the district before we even open the door. So that's just something that we need to be aware of. So total salaries next year looks to be about 47 million, which sounds like a lot, because it is a lot. 23-24 increase to the pension before any kind of negotiation settlements is 821,000. So that, just that by itself is a 2%, equates to a 2% increase. So that's something we always need to keep in the back of our mind. So total general fund revenue is 59.5 million. 73% of that comes from the LCFF. And then the expenditures is just under that, and that's salaries and benefits account for 79% of the total budget. And then in the LCAP, we have to delineate what are the increased and improved services to the students. So we budgeted, these are things that have been budgeted. We're gonna try our best to fulfill these. So, but we may or may not be able to hire all of these positions. So for intervention, we do have 4.5 full-time equivalents of intervention teachers at the TK5 elementaries. Bonita is a 0.5 because the other half is their resource teacher. Social emotional support, we have 2 additional mental health clinicians. We still have the iReady platform. We hired parent liaisons this year, and we added 2 additional counselors at the end of this year. Professional development, we're looking for instructional coaches. That's new this year. And then instructional aides, we've been increasing their time the last 2 years, and we're extending that to this next year as well. So things we need to consider is what happens when all the one-time money is gone. That's gonna be here before we know it. And how are we evaluating, and what do we need to evaluate to determine what stays and what goes? Every year we have the LCAP meetings, and I've never seen anything come off. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've added and added and added, we've never had anything come off. So, and developing measures for what's truly effective. So, does anybody have any questions? At this point, the 3-year outlook is good. At where we're projected right now. The 3rd year it is, and you'll see that next week when you have everything, when you have the full budget printout. But you'll see that the 3rd year gets a little tight, and we will have to make some choices for leading into that.
We've always kind of tried to keep like a 10% cushion, but I read something in the state that they're not allowing us to do that. It has to go down to 8.
No, it has to be, if it's above 10%, which we keep 8% at a minimum. If it goes below above 10%, which it is, the board designates what to do with the excess, and you passed a resolution at the beginning of this year designating that excess to go toward facilities.
Okay.
So we don't have to spend it, it doesn't have to go anywhere else, it just has to be designated and delineated that way.
Oh, thank you.
Well, if nobody else has anything to say, I'll just say, I like that sort of snazzy background where it looks like it's a notebook.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Used all through elementary school and high school. We had to have marble notebooks, not binders. Does anyone have questions for Mrs. Mendoza?
Thank you, ma'am. Good presentation.
No? Okay, I will close that at 6:40, 5:48. Oh, phew. Okay. We have nothing to report.
We have one more.
Actually, just need to reconvene to
To go
Right.
and,
session.
Because we-
When we come back,
Back, I
then
can
Then we can
report out.
report out.
we can report out.
Right.
okay.
Okay, so I need to adjourn this meeting to go to closed
No,
session?
no.
Reconvene to closed session, and
And
if
then
you're
we'll be
here,
back.
we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Have a good time. We are back in regular session, and I do have something to report out. Fact-finding hearing conducted by administrative review in case number 22-23/04. Motion by Board Member Mrs. Hurst and seconded by Board Member Mr. Cabral. It is moved that the Board of Education find there is cause to expel student number 31202 from all schools in the district for violation of Education Code. EC 48915, causing serious physical injury. EC 48915A, 2, possession of knife, explosive, or dangerous object. EC 489115, brandishing a knife. Panel recommendation is that the student shall be suspended and be placed on probation status so long as the student complies with the terms of the rehabilitation plan, which shall be as follows: through the fall semester of 2023-24 school year. It is further recommended that the remainder of the spring 2022-2023 semester and the fall semester of 2023-24, student number 31202 shall attend independent study in the district. If the student 31202 does not complete their high school requirements for graduation, student 31202 will be transitioned into adult education. Okay. And, field trip. We forgot.
Here,
That's it? Oh,
that's it.
hey, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are now adjourned. We're at 6:25.